Can you leave? Hey. I hope I caught that.
Hey guys, I'll be here for this video.
Kayla wants to listen.
I'll be the ghost in the background. No, I'm just kidding. I'll get out. All right. Have fun, child. Have fun, fucker. I'm going to get laid, pussy. Me and my child.
Alright, dude.
All right, I'm gonna see you.
Alright, dude.
Why don't you ever say bad?
I don't think I'm ever gonna have one location where I get to film all of my videos. I'm literally in Kayla's parents' bedroom right now. And it's kind of a long story. Not that long of a story. I told you guys I would stop rambling at the beginning of all of these videos, but that's a lie because I can't help myself from rambling. I went to my mom's house today so that I could grab my Ouija board because we're going to do another Ouija board soon, but we wanted to do it in a different place. That doesn't matter. And I couldn't get into the house. Basically, my mom locked me out of the house where all of my filming equipment was, and I'm not allowed to film there anymore. So now I have to find a new place to film, but it's hard to film where I live because I have so many siblings and my parents are always home, and I don't really care if they hear me filming, but they're loud and it would be in the background of everything, and the lighting in my room sucks, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm filming in Kayla's parents' bedroom. Thanks, Kayla's parents. But anyways, I have another scary story for you guys. This is actually a sequel to a video I posted, I want to say 2 weeks ago. The story was called I Wanted a Job But Was Given a Nightmare, so this is just the second part to that. TEAYUH actually reached out to me, which is the girl who wrote it, and she had sent it to me a long time ago, and I feel so bad because I never saw her message to me. So I gave credit to the person who had sent it to me instead of her who like sent me her own story, and I'm sorry, TEAYUH. But she is absolutely amazing. She's an amazing writer. I'm gonna have her link down below as well as the story. But yeah, okay, but anyways, this is just part 2 to I Wanted a Job But Was Given a Nightmare. It's been over a month I last updated you all with my situation. It's Cher again. Hi. I'm sorry that I don't have much time for a proper reintroduction or any chit chat, but I need to make this as quick as possible. I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere right now, and I'm being hunted as we speak. I thought I should at least try to get the rest of my story out there before there's no one to tell it. I have a weak signal, and again, I'm rushing, so if there's any typos, forgive me. After the scratches and the J appeared on my window, strange things began to happen. Not just to me, but to my loved ones too. Chris called me one night to let me know that Peter had gone missing. He was supposed to go over to his parents' house with his girlfriend for Father's Day. But when Peter's girlfriend returned from taking their dogs on a walk, he was gone. The place looked like someone had broken in, and there was a slight struggle in the bedroom, but no fingerprints or DNA evidence was found. There wasn't any blood either. No one's heard from Peter since then. Chris knows Peter's girlfriend, Rebecca, so he told me he went to their place to visit and comfort her around the difficult time she was going through. While he was there, they wouldn't allow him into the house because it was still taped off as a police crime scene, but he told me he could see scratches on their windows from their front yard. Identical scratches from the ones that have haunted us for years, but there was also a J and a P next to it. I asked Chris if he would come back to this side of the state and stay with me for a couple nights. I didn't want to be alone during this, and he agreed. The first night we couldn't even sleep. We kept all the windows and doors locked and the shades to the windows down. We wouldn't even open them during the day, fearing what we might see. The second day went a little differently. Cher, you know we have to tell someone. Anyone at this point. Yeah, it's been a few years, but because we haven't told anyone about what happened, it's coming back to bite us in the ass. Hard. And now Peter's gone too, just like Jess. And you and I are probably next. So who cares if they think we're crazy? There's gotta be someone who would believe us, and maybe even help us. Chris and I had been debating on what we should do all morning. I understood where he was coming from. Really, I did. But I didn't want the fingers to be pointed at us. Look, I know that sounds selfish, but at the time, I was already an outcast in my community over what had happened, and there were already rumors saying that I was the one responsible for Jess's disappearance. And it was only a matter of time before the news of Peter was to reach everyone in the area. I didn't want the rumors to be spread again, and I didn't want to be involved in this. Chris, we can't, and you know we can't. We'll all be blamed for what happened, and they could send us away to some mental hospital, or they won't do anything and everyone will hate us, including Mom and Dad, as if they don't hate us already. I groaned and put my forehead in my hands. It was all starting to give me a major headache. You know Mom and Dad don't hate us. Don't go saying something like that. Chris got up from the chair across from me and moved over to the sink to refill his glass of water. Maybe not you, but they sure as hell hate me. We live not even 5 minutes apart, and in the past year I've got this place, they haven't even stopped by once. All I've got was a birthday card and a few phone calls just checking in. They don't care. They think I'm crazy. I felt a tear trickle down my cheek from the corner of my eye. I hadn't realized my voice cracked a little, which was a sheer sign that I was getting pretty upset. Listen, my brother sat back down across from me. Mom and Dad love both of us. We were both found in the Lataf that day. If they hated you, they would hate me too. But they don't, and they never will. They love us, and you're just overwhelmed right now. Yeah, I guess. I let it drop after that, though I didn't feel any better than before. Even though I knew my brother was there for me, like I said last time, we weren't as close as we once were, so I felt alone. I only had him to talk about this, and he unfortunately had to leave the next day. He was only able to stay for the weekend, and then he had to go back to work. Now I was truly alone again. I went about my usual routine the following week. Wake up, go to work, go to the gym, go home, go to bed, repeat. I kept my windows and doors locked at all times. I couldn't even bring myself to lift the shades at all. I was living in a dungeon. Yeah, everything seemed to go back to normal, yet I still had this feeling in my stomach. I lost my appetite completely and basically only wanted to sleep when I got home. It was like I turned into a zombie. I was completely losing myself all over again. 2 weeks ago, I had gotten a call from Chris's cell phone in the middle of the night. The voicemail said 3:07 a.m. I had my phone on silent except for my alarm, so I didn't wake up to talk to him. But what I heard on the other side made my blood run cold and my legs went numb. I heard it. I heard its screams mixed with the sound of Chris's screams and the sound of someone struggling or something. And then the voicemail cut off. I drove to my mom and dad's house for the first time in forever and just ran into the room crying. They hadn't even woken up yet and I didn't knock. I could barely speak. I was having a breakdown. I knew it had gotten to Chris. I knew it. So I took his advice and tried to explain it to my parents, and like I expected, they thought I was crazy. They took me to a doctor who diagnosed me with severe PTSD and put me on like 3 medications. Obviously, I knew why I was acting the way I was. I was scared shitless, but I took the medications to try and find anything that would help. I was desperate. I know you're not supposed to mix medication with alcohol, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't try it that night. My parents filed a missing persons case the same day. The police took my cell phone for evidence. Luckily, I had an older version as a spare, so I could get in contact with anyone, just in case. And then, shit really hit the fan. I finally worked up enough courage to lift the shades from my windows to look outside, after staring at them for so long. If I hadn't done anything, I would have gone crazy. And going crazy probably would have been better than the latter. The scratch marks were still there. The J was still there. And now there was a P, and also a C. It was too much for me to handle. From the pills, the liquor, my anxiety, I collapsed onto my bedroom floor. I don't know how long I was out for. All I know is that when I woke up, it was dark. I was dazed and confused, and I was most definitely hungover because my head was pounding like a bitch. I thought I had just woken up naturally until I was in the process of standing up and heard a disturbing scraping sound come from outside of my window. The pounding in my head grew, and I slowly backed away from my window as the sound got louder and louder with each second that ticked. Curiosity was not on my mind, nor was being brave. I hightailed it the fuck out of there. I don't remember how my keys got in my hand or how I got to the driver's side door of my car, but I did, and I didn't really care at that moment. But it's like the damn universe had it out for me because I couldn't seem to get my damn keys to unlock my door. I panicked and looked over my shoulder, catching a glimpse of black mist moving over to the corner of my house. My senses went into full drive and I was finally able to get my keys to work. I was out of my driveway in seconds. I didn't know where I was going. I just had to get away. I drove for hours and only stopped at a rest area once daylight broke. I used the public bathroom and was about to get in my car again when someone tapped me on the shoulder. "Excuse me, dear. May I speak with you for a moment?" I turned to see who was talking to me. It was an elderly woman. Her long hair was done up in a high bun. Her cheekbones were high and seemed to be the only area of her face that weren't covered in wrinkles. Her pink lips were pressed together in a straight line and her icy blue eyes seemed to bore into mine as she looked up at me with her small frame. Yes? May I help you?" No, it is I who can help you," she stated as the corners of her mouth twitched up a bit. "Help me with what?" "There's something following you. But I sense you already knew that based off the bags underneath your eyes and the fact that you look like you haven't been properly taking care of yourself for what I would guess to be weeks now." My eyebrows furrowed together and I straightened up my posture. Who the hell was this woman? "Look, lady, I don't know if you have me confused with someone else or what, but I don't even know you, and to be frank, you're creeping me out. Now I really have to go." I rolled my eyes, not having any time to waste as I began to get into my car. She grabbed me by the shoulder this time and spun me around. Strong old woman. "Listen here, sweetheart. I don't have to help you, but I feel like I should. I can tell you've messed with something dangerous, and it's got a hell of a hold on you. You can run all you want, but it'll continue to follow you until it gets what it wants. I can't stay very long, because my husband and I are on our way up to Maine for vacation, but just know, I too have dabbled with something I shouldn't have. I found my way out, but my sixth sense tells me that this situation is nowhere near as serious as yours is." She was talking so fast as she began to dig around in her pockets. I could barely grasp what she was saying. "Here, you'll need this. I don't anymore. I'm safe now." The old woman grabbed my hand, having pulled a necklace from her pocket and placed it in my palm. The chain was silver and there was a large, long pendant on the middle of it, triangle in shape and jet black with 3 white polka dots placed at each corner of the triangle. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." I looked up to her, but she was already halfway across the parking lot getting into an RV. I was shocked, to say the least, and didn't really know how to react except to watch the RV drive off. I didn't even get her name. But I went over her words in my head and hesitantly placed the necklace in my cup holder. It seemed to be the only thing I had now, and if the old woman's words were true, it could save me in some way. Man, I was really desperate. I drove for hours before the highway turned back into a main road. I had no idea where I was. Northern Vermont, maybe? Having only passed 1 or 2 cars every 5 miles, I'm gonna guess my assumption was correct. I'm such a dumbass, really. I hadn't even stopped for gas once. My tank was empty and I had to pull over on the side of the road. I called the nearest tow truck station, but they said it would be a couple hours until they got there. Good old northern Vermont. Nobody around for fucking hundreds of miles, so I decided to sit in my car and wait, and wait, and wait. I was hungry now, and my phone was on low battery. I googled the closest store or anything of that sort in my area. Nothing for 30 miles. Fuck me. I called the tow truck place and their voicemail picked up. They closed at 9:30. It was 9:32. Seriously, I was screwed. Fed up with everything, I got out of my car and looked around. Nothing but asphalt and trees in sight. I hadn't even seen any headlights for at least half an hour, and there was no way I was just gonna sit in the middle of fucking nowhere all night. So I grabbed my car keys and a sweatshirt, my wallet, and the necklace, and I started walking. I swear every time I look back on my actions, I see how stupid I was at the time. I convinced myself it was the most logical thing to do. It took about 15 minutes for me to start getting that horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My palms began to sweat and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I began to move my legs faster, looking at my surroundings frantically, praying to see a set of headlights because I could sense it coming closer. Nothing. Except the screams. It was close, and it was coming for me. I knew I was right out in the open like a horror movie. I ran into the woods, in the middle of the night, by myself, where I had no fucking clue where I was. I'd been running for an hour, I think. I don't know. But with my lack of sleep, water, and food, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. I'm so scared, you guys, and I'm so fucking scared. I called 911 before I began to tell you this, but they couldn't get a pin on my location, and our phone call was cut off. They said they would send a chopper, but I know it'll be too late. The screams won't stop. They haven't stopped since they started, and I can feel it. I can feel the pain they went through. Jess, Peter, Chris, I feel it inside of me. I don't know if I'm going crazy, maybe I am. Is this all in my mind? I'm so exhausted. I've been laying against this tree for a long time now. I can't bring myself to move anymore. I feel like I'm being ripped apart, but mentally. I have no idea if that makes sense. The screams are getting louder now, like it's screaming right in my ears. I think it's gonna break my hearing aids, and I think I'm gonna die. I swear it just got 10 times darker. I can't even see stars anymore when I look up. And I'm crying, and I'm so sorry to all of my friends and my family. I'm so sorry to Jess and Peter and my brother and my parents, and I'm so sorry to the old woman who tried to help me and gave me this necklace. I'm holding it so tight, I think I might break it. I want to be able to give it back to her. The screaming stopped now, but I can't move. It's hard to breathe, and it's hard to keep my eyes open. Please don't do what I did. Please don't mess with it. Don't mess with a Batu. It'll take everything you love and more, and it'll break you. It broke me. I'm broken. I'm broken, and I'm sorry. It's been 3 days since I posted last. I'm alive, but I know I shouldn't be. I honestly thought I was a goner, and with the way I left my last post, I'm sure you all did too. As I laid against that tree, everything from the past month completely overwhelmed my body and my mind, and I passed out. When I awoke, I was in a rustic-looking cabin, and I was laid across a couch. I had barely any time to really observe my surroundings before my savior stepped through the front door and smiled at me. I told you the necklace would keep you safe. I had spent the next hour explaining my whole story to this woman, who I learned was named Helen, followed by her explanation of who she was and how she found me. Cher, you remind me a lot of myself when I was your age, which is around the time I too found myself in a situation similar to yours. A group of friends and I had heard of an abandoned warehouse out in the woods behind our small town. Nothing exciting really happened out there, so we all decided to meet up and camp out and get drunk. It was the 60s, so nobody really cared to guard or scope out any abandoned buildings. Not like nowadays, anyways. She let out a soft chuckle before she continued. When we got there, we walked around the building to familiarize ourselves with the area, and we ended up finding an old and seemingly worthless graveyard in the back. There were no names or dates on the headstones. We could only tell what they were by their shapes. I could probably count how many there were on my 2 hands. Of course, being the edgy teens we desperately wanted to be, we decided to set up camp next to the headstones. We made a fire, took out our sleeping bags, and proceeded to open a couple beers and tell scary stories. Helen let out a sigh, and then her brows furrowed down, and her eyes now held a large amount of sadness. My lifelong best friend and crush, Randy, ended up absolutely wasted. He stumbled and knocked over 2 of the headstones. When he did, a sudden scream echoed from the forest around us. It sounded as if somebody was being murdered. Even though he was drunk, Randy still liked to play the hero. A really macho guy he was. So he took his friends, Kenny and William, and they went into the woods where they thought the screams came from. That left me with my other 3 friends, Claire, Daniel, and Piper. We waited for them, all night, too shaken to sleep after what we had heard, and what we had feared happened to our friends. Once morning came, we decided to go to the police and tell them what had happened. A huge search party was issued and lasted for days. Their bodies were eventually found, and because I was one of the last people to see them alive, I was brought to the crime scene to identify their bodies. Helen's face was now pale. Her lower lip quivered as she spoke, and I swear I thought she was going to vomit. They were torn apart, Cher. One side of Randy's face was stripped of skin, his eyeballs no longer in his sockets, and just dangling there like a tea bag. And his torso was disconnected from his hips. The only thing holding him together were his intestines. Part of his right calf was missing. The cop said that it was probably a coyote that took it, but I saw it. There were no bite marks anywhere. Something ripped his calf off of him, and the remaining side of his face held true terror. His eyes were wide and bloodshot and also lifeless and cloudy, and his lips were purple. Kenny and Daniel were in similar conditions, but Randy was the worst of all of them. They also said that he was the last to die. Because of the way he was torn apart, with his organs still intact, they said he bled out slowly. He suffered. Helen wiped away the many tears that were rolling down her cheeks, and it was only until I blinked that I found my eyes were watering too. I went to move and hug her, to console her in any way I could, but she motioned for me to stop. She wasn't done. I knew something was terribly wrong with it all. The police said they were murdered, that was obvious. But I knew whoever or whatever did it to them, it wasn't human. No human, no matter how evil, could do that to 3 other human beings and never be found or caught. Those boys would have fought back with all of their might, but the scene showed no signs of a struggle. It was too quick and too precise. And being the stubborn girl I was, I decided to do some research on the building. Helen paused before standing up from the couch and moving over to a cabinet on the other side of the living room. I wasn't sure what she was doing until she turned back around with a rather large, old-looking book in her hands. She sat back down next to me and opened it, revealing a bunch of pictures with descriptions plastered on the pages. I found this book in my local library. Basically stole it because I never returned it. I had to keep the edgy teenager vibe. She winked at me, but I could only offer a small smile. It gave me everything I needed to know. The abandoned building had once been an old broom factory that had gone out of business. Without anyone looking to buy, the building was left to rot, until they came. Once I was done looking at the building records, Helen turned to a page to reveal a black and white photo of a group of 12 teenagers sitting in a circle, dressed in dark robes, with blank stares on their faces. All of their hair had reached to the middle of their back, even the boys, and what shocked me the most, none of them had eyebrows. They called themselves the Divina Servi. They were a small satanic cult that formed in the late 1800s, and that abandoned building was their last sanctuary. Divina Servi. I felt I had heard that name before, but shook it off for the moment as Helen continued to tell her story. The cult performed many satanic rituals in the building before an accident had occurred during one of the rituals, resulting in a fire that killed 9 of their members. Only the leader and 2 other members survived. Did they ever rebuild their cult and gain other members? I asked. No. Helen shook her head. The leader finally realized that they had been messing with true evil and left that life behind him. How do you know? I found him, and I questioned him. He told me the same thing the book did, but much more. He said that a new presence had introduced itself to the cult and asked for a human sacrifice. Through the Divina Servi, they were very dedicated. Human sacrifices broke their law and they refused, cutting off ties with the demon. He even went as far as creating special stone that was dipped in holy water and blessed by a priest. He kept it in his pocket at all times to protect him and his followers from the demon, as it seemed to be the most powerful one they had ever come into contact with. He was right. The demon was powerful. Powerful enough to start a fire and kill 9 people. The only reason he made it out alive was because of the stone. The flames didn't even touch him. The others made it out with sheer luck. Helen closed the book and walked over to put it back in the cabinet. The stone. Is that the... It's the pendant on the necklace I gave you. How did you get it? He gave it to me. He was old when I questioned him. On his deathbed, basically. And he gave it to me to protect me from the demon that was now attached to me. The demon was attached to you? How could he tell? Helen shrugged and raised her eyebrows. He spent years dealing with demonic presences and had developed a sixth sense for it, I suppose, like I did, and I accepted the stone without a second thought, as I did not want to share the same fate as my friends did. Eventually carrying the thing around had become a hassle, so I turned it into a necklace. I nodded my head, still struggling to wrap my head around all of it. You said your story was similar to mine, but yours wasn't as horrible? You saw your friends ripped apart. That's obviously worse. She shook her head and placed her hand on mine, giving it a comforting squeeze. I have closure. And so do the families of my friends. The way you carry yourself, I knew you didn't have closure the moment I sensed the presence and saw you. Your friends are still missing. If mine were still missing to this day, I'm sure it would have been worse for me. I felt a weight being lifted off of my shoulders. Though Peter and Chris had known what I went through, I still felt alone. And here, this old woman, not caring that I had been a complete fool, she truly felt for me, and at this point, I needed that more than ever. Now, your demon, did you ever learn the name? Maybe a name could help you know what you're dealing with. Helen brought out her laptop as she spoke to me, also taking out her reading glasses and placing them upon the bridge of her nose. Oh right, the name was Abatu. Helen suddenly froze and looked at me with wide eyes, as if I was a demon myself. What? Oh dear. Oh no. Helen got up and began to scramble around, moving so fast I could barely tell what she was doing. Helen, what's wrong? What's going on? She spun around quickly to look at me, a cross grasped tightly in her left hand, having just locked all of the windows and doors. That's the demon that set the fire, the one that followed me all of these years, the one that killed Randy. She began to shut all of the shades and close all of the blinds before mumbling a prayer repeatedly under her breath. Oh my God. I felt sick to my stomach and curled up into a ball on the couch, beginning to hyperventilate. This could not be happening. This could not be happening. After a few moments of rocking back and forth while Helen continued to recite a prayer, I began to smell smoke and quickly became alert. I stood up and turned to Helen, eyes wide. She looked back at me and motioned for me to stay calm, pointing to a smoking safe stick in her hand. Relief flooded me. Helen, what do we do? What do I do? I can't keep this necklace if it's after both of us. It only protected the leader of the Divina Servi. It can only protect one person. We're together, Cher, and I've used the last 50 years of my life to protect myself from the supernatural, especially demons. I have more tricks up my sleeve than a necklace and can suffice without it. You, on the other hand, cannot. She was completely right. I knew that much. If not for her or that necklace, I'd be 6 feet under right now. She spent the next few hours cleansing her cabin, and I helped out as much as I could, handing her more sage sticks or more salt when needed. Meanwhile, we had shared more of our lives to one another, besides our personal paranormal mishaps. I learned she lied when she first met me. She didn't have a husband. She lied to keep a somewhat normal persona in public, especially because she didn't want me to freak out even more, so she came up with a vacation story. I also learned that she was an EMT for 30 years and had been divorced twice. I didn't have much to offer but a few childhood stories with my brother, but the long talks made the situation we were in much easier. Eventually, we were both too tired to keep our eyes open any longer. Helen headed off to her room for the night as I settled in on the couch, falling asleep to the news. Unfortunately, my time of peace came to an end. I awoke with my nostrils burning and my vision being clouded. The living room was filled with smoke. The whole cabin was. I coughed vigorously and crouched down low, blinking my eyes rapidly to try and calm the stinging sensation. Helen? I called out hoarsely, with no response. I tried to make my way to the hallway but was blocked by tall, dancing flames. I turned back and crawled to the front door, coughing as I struggled with the handle. Eventually, I managed to open the door and roll out onto the stone landing outside, gasping for clean air. It took a few moments of staring up at the night sky to regain any energy and push myself from the ground, running around the perimeter of the cabin. Yellow and orange swallowed the windows as I continued to call for Helen. Finally, I spotted her pressed against the glass of a window that was open a few inches, trying to pull it up. I quickly ran over and tried to lift it up with her, but the damn thing wouldn't budge. I began to bang on it, trying to loosen it somehow. I tried using a rock, throwing it against the glass. The crack on the window let some of the smoke out, but I knew Helen didn't have much time as she was now down on her knees, struggling to breathe. I became desperate and continued to smash the rock against the window, only resulting in a few cracks. "Come on, you fucking thing, open!" I cried out, tears brimming on the corner of my eyes. "Cher." Helen looked up at me through the glass and reached up, grabbing my hand through the crack. No, come on, Helen. I'm so close, you have to get up. Please get up." She smiled sadly at me and shook her head, reaching into her pocket to pull out the necklace, handing it to me. "It's yours now. You have to stay safe." Her eyes began to flutter, and I watched as her breathing slowed. "No," I wailed, and now kicking and basically throwing my body against the window. She couldn't go. She was all I had left at this point. "Stay safe." Before I knew it, flames had completely engulfed the room, taking Helen as well. I was forced to move back from the window, the heat becoming too much as the necklace dangled in my hand. I heard sirens in the distance before many police cars and a fire truck pulled alongside the cabin. I was taken into an ambulance and to the hospital after they had put the flames out. I never once let go of the necklace, and it was then that I decided that no matter what happens, no matter what obstacles I face, I will get justice for my friends. I will get justice for my brother, and I will get justice for Helen. I'll get justice for myself. Abatu, I'm coming for you. And that is the end of that story. Oh my god, I hope that there's a part 3. Tia, make a part 3 because you can't stop right there. Well, actually, this was like part 7 because I'm reading multiple parts at a time. But make like a part 3 that I can read in a video, please. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I'll have her link down below. She's an absolutely amazing author and she's really nice and she's really cute. So I'm going to link her channel too so you guys can check her out. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!